All right, so I've had my Switch 2 now for 2 days. I got it on the Thursday midnight release, a Wednesday night at midnight. And to be honest, I've only had really a full day of playing it. I have some thoughts, but I just want to show what I recorded during launch day. I got some footage going into Best Buy and just kind of documenting everything. And then we're gonna go straight into unboxing the Switch and talking about what I like, what I don't like about it, some impressions, and where I think the console is gonna go. I'm really excited and hope you join me for the rest. I hope this isn't using my car audio, but I am currently on my way to grab a Nintendo Switch 2. I have to wait in line to grab a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm going to my local Best Buy, and I have a darling angel who I date. My girlfriend is waiting, has been waiting since 3 o'clock in that line. It's now 6:40. I bought her pizza. I got her some other goodies and some water. And I'm about to join her on the in the battlefield. I'm really excited. I've never done anything like this before. That's actually not true. When I was a little kid with the GameCube, also at a Best Buy, my parents with my brother went to go buy it on launch day. So this is bringing it back to 2001. Really excited, super excited. Bro, this is crazy. I'm in that gray tent over there. It's been fun so far. We are 10 minutes out from the Switch 2 launch. I'm tired. I'm ready to get the Switch. I'm sweaty. I'm also really excited.
Yeah. They have the confetti.
Just wait for me right where the young ladies are.
All right.
Stop there.
Hey. Hello.
How are you?
Good, and you?
You're not pre-order, right?
No.
Yeah. All right, so if you guys want to loop around and come back in this way, they'll take you here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is this the back way? Quite marvelous.
12.
Oh, look at that.
You're 13.
Like he's like,
All right. I just came back from Best Buy. It's about 12:30, and I was able to grab a Switch 2 with Mario Kart bundled in it. And I went with my girlfriend, so we bought her another one. This one I'm actually gonna put away for now. We're gonna go ahead and unbox this one, and I'll tell you guys more about it in a second. All right, so here it is. Let's go ahead and open up and see what we've got inside. Do I have to? All right, give me 2. All right, so here it is. This is the one with Mario Kart World in it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to get this off. I wanna do that. Okay. This opens here. Okay. How else does this work? Oh, okay. I don't know if I like it like that. I guess I should open it this way. Okay. All right. So here is the Switch. I'm gonna pull this out. We have the dock and accessories on the side. So we have our Switch grip controller. Okay. Sorry if you hear my cats meowing in the background. Oh, this is nice. I didn't know it was detachable. We've been gone for like the past 8 hours. We were camping for about, since about like 3:30. My girlfriend was there and then I came around at 6. So, all right, here is the USB-C to USB-C charging cable. That's gonna be interesting. Kind of short. This might be shorter than the Switch original. I wonder if it's the same wattage and if I can use that instead, because I would probably prefer to use that and then just charge this. Let's look at the dock. Wow, this dock is kind of beefy. This dock is pretty beefy. I already got some fingerprints on it. It's nice. It's a nice dock. Let's see, does it open this way? I'm kind of scared to open it. Oh, okay. Oh, and it comes all the way off. All right. So it comes with, here's the AC adapter, the HDMI port, and LAN. So kind of like the Switch OLED. It's very nice. I like the texture of the matte black. Oh, this is, I don't like that. I just kind of squeezed it a little bit and it folded. And then here's the charging brick. I'm gonna have to look up online if I can use this charging brick. Let's see, I think the Switch one is 18 watts. This is 15 watts. USB-C, very nice. All right, here are the Joy-Cons. Here's the left one. That feels nice. It's substantially bigger. Let's see if I have an old Switch Joy-Con that I can bring out. This is a right Joy-Con, just to show you the size difference. Huge difference all the way around. Even in the thumbsticks too. I wonder if it's taller. No, they're about the same height. Kind of see it there. Okay. And we have the right one. All right. Now here is the moment of truth. I'm gonna put all this to the side. Be over here. Here's the Switch tablet. Wow, this is also substantially heavier than what I remember the normal Switch to be. It's upside down. Okay, here's our Switch console here, our power buttons, volume rocker. I'm gonna go ahead and actually turn it on. Whoa, that feels nice. Wow. Wow, this is huge. I mean, it feels huge. I'm sure people who have like the Steam Deck and stuff. Whoa, okay. I'll put this up. Nice speakers. US. The Americas. Alright, yeah. Accept. Okay. I'll put this to the side for now. All right, so after having a really annoying time with my password, I was just really stupid. Okay, yes. Oh yeah, let's check out the stand. So the stand looks really nice. I already got my sweaty, grubby fingerprints on it. So we have, oh, that's nice. I'm actually gonna put it on the stand. Let's move this out of the way. Let's see, let's try out the, oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, all right, very nice. I'm gonna move you out the way. Okay, so here is the stand. It's on. I'm using the stand. Yeah, I'll connect to the TV. I have been playing with my Switch 2 for about 2 days now, and I have a lot to say about it. A lot of good things, actually, and some not so great things. Um, Overall, it's been a great experience. I'm not gonna lie. To provide some context, I had my Switch 1 since about 3 months after launch of the Switch 1 back in 2017. I enjoyed it a lot for what it was. I never had the Wii U, but I always wanted it, but I never committed because it was, I was in high school at the time, and I didn't have my own money. Switch was my first like real console that I committed my own, big boy money to. And around a little bit after 2020 was when it started to feel a little stale. Not a lot of games were coming out for me that I really enjoyed, and the games that that I did have were feeling old, and the hardware itself was feeling pretty old. So I actually ended up selling my Switch almost 2 years ago now because I wasn't using it. I had just bought a PS5. I was playing a lot of PC games, and I just didn't really use my Switch. And my girlfriend has a Switch Lite that I use currently, and that wasn't even getting played that much. Switch 1 needed a major upgrade. In my personal opinion, Nintendo should have done a version of this with like the Switch Pro, 3 years ago. I think that would have been a great time. And at this point, this does feel like a good revision to the Switch. It does feel like a Switch Pro, not like a sequel to the Switch. It just feels like a Switch that I've had that is upgraded in all different aspects. Obviously, the screen on the physical Switch itself is amazing. The internals are upgraded heavily. Same for the Joy-Cons. We have yet to see if the Joy-Cons is going to have the same problem with drift that the Switch 1 has. I'm hoping it doesn't. I really hope for Nintendo's sake that they resolve that issue. But it's exactly what I wanted for in a Switch 2, which is an upgrade to my Switch. My best experience so far with the Switch itself, and I need to dive into more, I need to dive into more of the GameCube games that they have with the Nintendo Switch Online. But the upgrades that they have are substantial, and I'm actually going to talk about that in great detail next. So I checked out 5 games actually, technically. So I have Nintendo Switch Online, so it was able to give me free upgrades to Scarlet, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Odyssey. Sorry, I was looking at my list. Super Mario Odyssey and the Super Mario trilogy, like the special edition thing that they have with Sunshine, Galaxy, and Mario 64. I played all 5 of those. I got to look back on the list to see if there are any other games that I own that are upgraded. But all of them, minus the collection, feel like a giant step up. Specifically Scarlet. Scarlet was the one where I noticed it the most. It is jarring how different it is compared to the Nintendo Switch 1 version. That game was a really fun game for me. I liked it a lot, but it did have its glaring issues, and so much so that by the time that I finished the game, I I took it off my Switch, or I deleted the game from my Switch files, because I found myself being kind of more annoyed with how slow the load times were, how ugly the game looked, And the same can be said for Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom and Scarlet and Violet have, to me, like, just looking, I'm not Digital Foundry, but just looking at the game, it looks so much better. I think both of them are playing at 60 FPS, which is a huge bump up from the 30 FPS cap that they had um, for Switch One, and they have no frame drops, or I haven't really noticed any. Um, they have, I think they're both running at 1080p. I'm not entirely sure if they bumped it up to 4K on the TV, but at least in handheld mode, and from what I imagine, they're probably pumping out in terms of resolution on the TV is just 1080p. Breath of the Wild also received a substantial bump, but Breath of the Wild didn't have as many technical issues as Tears of the Kingdom. So, yes, while extremely noticeable, Breath of the Wild is not as, I guess, somebody going from Switch 1 to Switch 2 without really understanding or caring about visual fidelity or anything like that would make such a big distinction versus the first two games that I talked about. And Odyssey is the same thing. Odyssey was already running at 60 FPS from what I believe. So I think it was just a resolution bump, and I'm not entirely sure to what they bumped it to. I'd be curious to see what Nintendo releases online. I don't think they were kind of vague on the website with explaining like what they're going to be updating. And I'm not entirely sure if they're ever going to release it, but I'm sure that Digital Foundry will eventually release a video. It's basically free content for them. They can totally measure this, and I hope they do it. I'm sure they'll probably do a bunch of videos within this month talking about the visual differences between Switch 1 and Switch 2 upgrades. The UI is the same, and that was a bummer to me. I was one of the complainers of the Switch UI being too plain and boring. I think in general the big upgrades with that was, and you probably heard it early in the video, was with the setup. They had this awesome cool music, and then you get into the main UI and it's just boring. Like, it looks exactly the same. And that kind of like lines up with the idea of it being a revision, kind of like a Switch Pro. And that's kind of how I envisioned it. I never imagined it to be anything more than just a Switch Pro, which is probably why I have high opinions on the Switch 2 so far. A lot of people have been complaining though about, it not being enough or anything like that, or it being too expensive for what it is. If you're an enthusiast, if you like your Switch 1 games, if you know that you're going to be playing Switch forever, and you like Nintendo and you like their games, this is a good console for you. It gives you everything that you're going to want to get with the console. 1080p 120 Hz screen on a handheld device is great. The LCD screen looks incredible in person. One more detail that I do want to provide is that yes, I did come from a Switch 1 V1, meaning that it had the crappy LCD screen that the Switch 1 had, not the OLED. But I've had enough experience with OLED to say that it's still a significant bump in quality versus the Switch 1. One thing I will point out, however, is the colors aren't as vibrant as the OLED, which is a bummer. And I will admit that. I know that Nintendo is eventually going to release an OLED version of the Nintendo Switch 2, which I'm going to be buying. I've already committed myself to this so far. And yeah, I think this is everything that Nintendo fans have been wanting with the Switch 1. My only complaint is that it took them 3 years too late to deliver, and that's a shame. But I'm happy that we have it now, and I'm happy that we're able to experience this at the price that it is. The price for everything else though is bonkers. There's no way that you pay $80 for this Mario Kart, albeit I do think it's a great Mario Kart. I played a little bit of it. I played a little bit of Knockout Tour and a little bit of the Grand Prix, and yeah, it's a Mario Kart game. I mean, There are really cool, like, innovative parts of it. There's a lot of things going on the screen. I will also admit that I don't. I like the tracks in Mario Kart 8 because they all, they all felt very intuitive and very innovative, especially at the time with like the upside down tracks and everything. So I just have to play more of Mario Kart World to have like a full opinion on it versus Mario Kart 8, which to me is one of my favorite Mario Karts. So we'll see. The driving mechanics are a bit different. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing just yet. I'm still getting used to it. And I love the cow. He's awesome. And the penguin. The character selections are great. The art design is really, really nice. A lot of the character designs look really, really cool, in my opinion. They're not reinventing the wheel with a lot of the character designs, but it's different enough for it to stand out, which I think is important, right? When you're trying to distinguish yourself with, one of the greatest multiplayer games of all time. That being said, $80 for this game is ridiculous, and I'm glad that I was able to get the bundle because I would not have paid for that regardless. The other thing is $85 for a Switch Pro controller is stupid. From my testing, and I might just be a dummy and not doing things correctly, but it looked like that the Switch 2 or the Switch 1 Pro controller on the Switch 2 won't wake it up from sleep, which is a bummer because that controller is great and that's what I was using for a majority of my playthroughs, and I couldn't wake it out of sleep when I was using it. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that. They probably nerfed it on purpose so that you're forced to buy the Switch 2 Pro controller. I don't know if I'm going to be able to buy a Switch 2 Pro controller from here, in the near future, because I didn't want to commit $70 to the old Pro controller, let alone $85. I don't think it has enough features for it to warrant that price. I'd rather just get the 8-bit controller and call it a day. I don't know. That's going to be a point of contention for me, is to see how Nintendo manages the price strategy moving forward. I know that with the Switch 1, their philosophy was retaining the value of everything, so none of their games went on sale. And I'm curious to see how game sales performances are going to be like, because I think that's going to be a very important thing to talk about with the Switch 2, because I think a majority of people who were early adopters of the Switch 2, aka myself and a lot of people who have Switch 2 right now, are mainly doing it so that they can play their current library with better visuals and just better output in general. So I'm curious to see how that would affect sales, because the Switch 1 didn't have to deal with that. They didn't have to deal with the previous console. And in fact, they benefited from no backwards compatibility because they were able to sell all of the Wii U titles for a premium, again, to an audience that never played the Wii U. So I'm curious to see. This Mario Kart World isn't going to be the determining factor. I think Donkey Kong Bonanza will be the determining factor, because I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to buy that game day one unless I'm, very successful with this video. Then maybe maybe I'll buy it and test it out and show you guys on the channel. Who knows? Let me know if you want to see me play Donkey Kong Bonanza. But yeah, I do think this is going to be an interesting generation for the Switch. Third party is also going to be a big point of consideration for a lot of people, to see if this is going to be able to live up as their sole console. I know a lot of people who ended up having the Switch or buying it in 2017 within the year or 2 years, if they didn't already have a PS4 or like an Xbox, they would either supplement their Switch with PS4, Xbox, or PC. And I was one of those people. I think people still see the Switch as a supplementary console, but I do think this at least has enough power to be able to play games at 1080p and output them hopefully at 4K, because that's what the resolution from the Switch is going out to. But and people who still have their PS4s or play the PS4, I think that they know that that console still looks pretty good. You know what I mean? Um, so we'll see. That's going to be another exciting point to see over time. And let me actually talk about the controls and the actual playing experience of everything. The setup was a terrible process. You probably heard a little bit of my frustration when I was messing around at the beginning of this video. The whole transferring consoles thing is so stupid to me, because I mean, when I got my PS5, it took maybe at most like 10 minutes to set up my console, and this took me, granted I was tired and also been waiting for, you know, worked the full shift and then waited about 6 hours, 7 hours for the release of this thing. So maybe it was just I had, you know, hazy brain and it was just dumb and couldn't get it done quickly, but it took me almost like 45 minutes just to get everything going, and I think that's insane. I also think it's ridiculous, the barrier of entry for a console that's mainly going to be geared towards kids. And let's be real here, a lot of parents are going to be buying their Switch for their kids. Parents are not, you know, known to be technically inclined, and neither are children, and I think that that's going to be a very difficult thing. I actually know I teach music lessons, and I asked one of my students if they got it, because I know that they are, you know, their parents are video game enthusiasts, and they were having an issue with transferring from the previous console because it had it on their mother's name and it took forever, and they were very frustrated. So if I was frustrated as somebody who, you know, is a self-proclaimed tech enthusiast, I can imagine parents who don't have any idea what the heck they're doing on their phone, let alone, you know, Nintendo Switch 2, will be dealing with. So I know that they need to be protecting their IP, and that's really the main thing that they like to. That's how they retain their value, and that's how they've made so much profit, especially with the Switch 1 generation. But they gotta start being a little bit more friendly to at least the parents out there that are, you know, spending a lot of money on their products. That aside, the hardware is great. I mentioned it, the controller and the weight of the console itself feels really nice. The controls feel really good. The buttons feel really good and premium. The Joy-Cons feel substantially better than the first generation of Joy-Cons. And I hope that the thumbsticks isn't going to be a problem. They seem very similar to me. That's the only thing that is kind of similar, which is worrisome, you know, because of the whole drifting issue. So we'll see if that's going to be a problem moving forward. The screen, again, I can't say more good things about it. It's incredible. A huge step up from even, you know, the OLED. I don't know what they have in terms of the SSD that's in the system, but it's fast. I mean, the loading times are almost non-existent, which again, compared to the Switch 1, is a huge upgrade. I think people have posted videos up of like Smash Ultimate, which has no free upgrade, by the way, having substantially faster loading times, which was a big reason why I didn't really like playing Tears of the Kingdom on my Switch 1. It was noticeable with that and Breath of the Wild. The eShop also was considerably faster and didn't take 5.5 years to load and wasn't a janky mess, which is, you know, what you can. It should be the standard, but it's what you can hope with this console, that at least it's looking good. And I really do hope that Nintendo at least adds themes to the UI. They need to do something about that. So, those are my first impressions. If you really enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Put a comment down below if you want to see more Switch 2 footage, or if you want to see me get Donkey Kong Bonanza, or try out really any other Switch 2 related products or games. That's it from me. I'll probably post a full review soon, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.